Han, what's up, brother?
Hey, not much. How are you?
I'm good, dude. All right. So, you are an amazing worship leader, but also, just kind of like a pastor's heart that leads worship,
Yeah.
right? And so, in that sense, I think a lot of guys who just typically preach the word don't really fully understand just the depth that worship leaders could bring to the service, right? And so, man, what do you think are some things that you as a worship leader wish lead pastors would know about worship?
That's a great question. I think one of the topics that I hear about a lot, actually, and a lot of questions I get from worship leaders is, what do I do with my senior pastor? What sort of relationship should I have with him? And one of the things that I was able to do that maybe not a lot of current worship leaders are able to do was become a senior pastor himself. I actually had a church plant for 5 years.
Amen.
And so I was able to experience the other side of it. And so one of the things I tell a lot of senior pastors, because I've been in their shoes, was, don't forget about your worship leaders. More importantly, we need you. More importantly, we need your help, especially in developing our leadership. I really believe that no matter how long you're in ministry, you can always grow. You can always grow in your leadership. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen with a lot of worship leaders is that we need help in developing our leadership. There are a lot of talented singers and instrumentalists, players. I mean, we're such a talented generation that we have now. But I think one thing that we are lacking is leadership, and in understanding what that is, seeing models of leadership and trying to understand that. One of the greatest things that my former pastors and even my current pastor right now at Park Cities is doing for me is modeling what it looks like to be a godly servant leader in the church. And so that's something I'm trying to learn from.
So what does that look like? Is that open communication? Is that like a set time? Hey, Han, come by my office anytime. We need to talk about this, whatever.
Well, number one, it's being accessible. I think that's such a big thing, and just communicating the idea that my door is always open, but also intentionally reaching out. My pastor intentionally reaches out to me, especially if he knows something's happening in my life, and being relational. I think that's huge as well. But just knowing that worship leaders really need help in this area. That's something that we do every single week. It's not enough just to be talented. You need to know how to lead people, and that's something I'm constantly learning myself.
I think you're talking about leadership. You're trying to draw people in to participate, right? What are some ways that you and the lead pastor kind of work in ways of doing that? Like, are you asking, hey, what are you preaching on? What's the text? Because I want these songs as we corporately worship to kind of like complement that, or are you just kind of like, hey man, I'm going to do my thing?
Well, absolutely. I think you need to connect. I think worship pastors ought to be connecting with their senior pastors, not only understanding what they're preaching about, the themes of the weekend. Those are all important. And you want a service that makes sense. Obviously, it all needs to flow together. I get that. One of the things I was able to do when I was a lead pastor was I was able to convey my excitement and passion for what I'm about to preach. I think that's a very simple thing, but I think it can really set up the service for success because everybody's bought into it. And so on a weekly basis, I would meet with my worship leaders and say, this is why I'm so excited about this weekend. This is why this topic is so important to me. And so I want you guys to know that. And so out of that, they would not only pick the right songs, but they would lead it with passion, understanding where I'm headed, right? And so I think the more together you can be with your senior pastors, I think the better off the whole service and the whole church can be.
And a whole staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
My goodness, if they're all going the same direction, just how spiritually powerful could that be,